Welcome to Echoes of Uncertainty. I am your host, Ubi. Let's get into it. What am I uncertain about today? I am certain about my purpose. And that is a theme that has been echoed through the last 4 episodes, especially starting this podcast while I was on sabbatical for my career and and allowing myself to take time to look around and like kind of see what am I doing? How am I showing up in the world? And what does that feel like, look like, sound like? And doubling down on this podcast for better or for worse, I recognize my inconsistencies and I'm no longer making promises on delivery. And also allowing myself that space to rest. Now, as I come on here today and think about how uncertain I am about my purpose, let me explain. I don't mean my purpose as in my career, but maybe my purpose is what am I doing with my life on a long enough timeline? And I look around at the people who surround me, and I think, well, actually, this is interesting because I have dueling thoughts in my head. So I think I think people know that they need to survive. And so, what does survival look like? Keeping a roof over their head, keeping a certain amount of money in the bank, making sure their children are happy. And that's where there becomes this dichotomy of personal purpose, like, why do I exist? Why am I here? And then responsibility purpose. What is my responsibility to my husband, to my wife, to my partner, to my dog, to my child, to my parents, to my family? And again and again and again and again. And so, where does that division hold in your priority? And so, where does it hold in my priority? Well, coming off a sabbatical, I realized coming off a sabbatical, I imagined I was going to emerge well rested, a little more toned, like well fed. And if anything, I emerged from my time off a little bit more chaotic and a little grumpy, maybe even because I didn't emerge from that cocoon a fully formed butterfly. I definitely expected the metamorphosis to be so real, and it wasn't, kind of. And what I realized coming out of sabbatical and going back to work is that I couldn't work there anymore for a whole slew of reasons. And I think that might be an episode in itself. But I I wanted to 100% blame my company at the start of my sabbatical. And by the end, it was very much it's not you, it's me. I changed. Now, did the company change? 1,000%. Wholly. And I changed what I wanted. And I knew I did not want to continue to work at that place, to be subject to everything that was going on there. And I feel like I'm making it sound ominous, and there's so much good that came out of my decade-long career. Friendships, travel, amazing growth, learned a ton. And I can't express how well I now sleep at night. I sleep great. Part of that is probably a few things, but the amount of stress from my last day to today, you can't even compare. And so, am I saying go quit your job? Nope. No, 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 no. Do not quit your job. Am I saying should you truly do something that gives you life? Yes. Because if what you're doing does not give you life, I think you will continue to face burnout. You will continue to live for those weekends, live for that time off, and not be able to find your balance. Now, this is unsolicited advice. You don't even have to be listening to this podcast, and yet here you are. And I used to not laugh, but like truly not believe that people enjoyed their jobs beyond getting paid. And that's frankly not the case. There are so many of you out there that like what you do. And not that I haven't cared for what I was doing, but I truly was following a paycheck. And that is not, I don't think that's the way. I mean, asterisk, ask me that in a few weeks, months, years from now if I still feel that way. I'm sure my answer will probably be different, because right now, for me and myself, rest is good. Figuring out my purpose is good. Coming on this podcast and talking out all of these things is good. Being out of survival mode, and maybe kind of in a out of survival as in I'm not just burned out every single moment of every single day, and I can start looking to the future, or starting to craft a different dream, and or finding a different narrative. Yeah, I think that sounds kind of cool. But what do you think? I feel like I just went on. What did I just go on? I feel like I just went on a rant. It's really not a rant. It's just how I'm feeling. And there's really some big feelings happening in this world, and I don't necessarily. No, I don't want to comment on what's happening currently in the United States. All I'm saying is getting into the post-survive. We're pre-thrive. We're not thriving yet, but we are post-survive, looking towards the pre-thrive. Now, all of that is great, Ubi. Well, thank you, Ubi. And once you leave a career and you take some time off, when you enter into social situations with people you don't know, the first question is, "Oh, what do you do?" And I have been fluctuating between semi-retired or retired from my first career, and it's it's humorous to me, but it's very interesting to see people's reaction to hearing a young person say, "Oh, I'm semi-retired," or "I just retired." Because there's that instant, "Wait, are you serious?" And it's, "No, I'm not serious," but also, "Yes, I am." Because I don't foresee myself going back to that capacity, or excuse me, that role in that capacity. I, and also, never say never, knock on wood, who knows? And so, where am I going with this, Ubi? Well, I was invited to a Galentine's party about a month ago, or maybe a few weeks ago. Time is a construct. And at this specific event, all of the women had the same career, except for me. And so it was great because we didn't talk about careers. Now, granted, did they swap some stories of the career that they all had? Yes. And was it fascinating? Absolutely. But the overarching conversation and flow of the evening had absolutely nothing to do with work. And I think we, as citizens of the United States, as Americans, we are obsessed with our work. We are defined by our work. And if you take work out of the equation, where does that leave you? Where did that leave me? I'll tell you, a mess on the floor that you guys heard 3 episodes ago. And so what happens when you are decoupling your identity from your work? What happens when you don't just want to be burned out? You start talking on Ubi's podcast. That's what. I mean, maybe. We'll see, right? Where's this going? And so, yeah, it was so much fun, and it was so refreshing to just talk to these women about what are they reading, what are they watching. There was this creative activity where we were painting on mini canvases and telling stories. And I think all too many times we as women, or we as people, when we get together, all we do is complain. All we do is whine. All we do is just talk about the bad. Now, I realize bad happens and that we are constantly faced with challenges and trials and tribulations. And it's also just so refreshing to go into a social situation and talk about the good, talk about the mundane, talk about the things that might seem trivial to you, but someone else may really respect. Be humorous, be light. Start off telling stories by saying someone got arrested. That's a story for another time. It's a good one though. And just finding the lightness because the world is heavy. Life is heavy. Finding your purpose is heavy. Finding found when you're lost is heavy. And so we're going to just take some lightness out of this. Yeah, I like that. I hope you do too. And so I think I'm going to leave you with that. So, granted, I'm still very uncertain about what my purpose is, but thank you very much for listening. Hit subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.